I lived in New York in the late 1990s. I lived downtown. I rode the 6 train that you mentioned about. This was during the Giuliani era when things started to get better, and then we had Bloomberg. Thanks to Giuliani and Bloomberg, we had a nice long time here in New York where you could live in a neighborhood without having to worry about crime that much. Boy, how things have changed under our horrific last mayor, this soft on crime DA that we now have now, and so on. But there was this one video that really underscored just how we've lost our moral compass. We've lost our connection, our humanity. And it happened just the other day. A man was run over by a truck in Midtown Manhattan. I think it was 8th Avenue and 44th Street, which is right in Midtown. And the guy was in his young 50s. He was there underneath the wheel of the truck, dead. It's a tragedy. And some guy ran over and pickpocketed him to the point where they couldn't even identify the guy without checking dental records later because he took his ID. And the worst part of it, maybe, I don't know, it's hard to pick, is he was cheered on. These New Yorkers standing there right in the middle of Midtown New York cheered him. I'm going to play it. You can see it on YouTube later, and our listening audience will hear the exuberant cheers as this man picked the pocket of a dead man in Midtown.
Go ahead, gangsta. Go ahead. Go ahead, gangsta. Go ahead. Yo, she's like, let me take all that off him. You don't need that. Yo!
They loved it. The man's still underneath the enormous wheel of the truck, dead in front. I don't even know what to say. We've lost our humanity.
Yeah, there really aren't any words that fully capture just how disgusting that is. I mean, it's, and the laughter, the sense of enjoyment is, that's the kind of thing that I think indicates, a sort of cultural argument as to what undergirds this, right? Because, if you could make the argument that this was just a function of poverty, this is just, someone trying to make ends meet because they're desperate, that doesn't come with the laughter. That doesn't come with the go ahead gangster. I mean, what is that? I think you're exactly right. I think in a lot of ways, too many people are becoming far too desensitized to tragedy and gore and violence, and that's only going to breed more of it.
And they see it everywhere. They see it on the New York City subway. The former New York governor, Democrat, Patterson, came out this week, I think it was, and said, I have never felt more unsafe in my life in New York City, ever. This is a lifetime record for him. I think a lot of people are feeling that. You cannot take the subway anymore. I would not take the subway. I took the subway, you mentioned the 6th Street again. I took it every day. When I was a young lawyer practicing in Manhattan in 1997 through 1999, every day I took it. I would not take the subway anymore. Hell no. I saw you had a tweet the other day about the murder rate down in the subway and how we're seeing it go up and up and up this year. I think they've had 7 this year. 7 people get killed. That doesn't count all the people who've just been stabbed in the face and stabbed in the shoulder. And these are young dads, young moms doing nothing wrong. And people say, well, it's only 7. Okay, well, it tends to be one per year. Right. 7's a huge increase. It's the point you were making. And the videos are every day. We see another one of people down in the subway harassing people. Here's just one bizarre one just to show the viewers at home. I think it was women dressed as green goblins took to the subway and committed a crime. This is just a video. It was on October 2nd. I don't even know what they're doing. I don't even know. It's like organized crime they think it's funny. They think it's going to be like a laugh riot to deck themselves out in bizarre neon green bodysuits, brutally attacking and mobbing 2 19-year-olds. Where? Times Square. Times Square subway station, 2 a.m., after one of the victims committed the sin of apparently bumping into them. Happens over and over, and 9 times out of 10, Rafael, though not always, it's some homeless person shoving somebody onto the tracks.
Yeah, no, this is a real problem. I mean, and people try to downplay it and say, oh, well, it's only 7. Yeah, well, it's only 7 at compared to 1 or 0, right, in prior years before 2020. And that doesn't even begin to account for the fact that we have significantly lower ridership, so that on our best day, we're at about 70% of what our pre-pandemic ridership was. So the rate's even higher when you account for that change. But it basically, in the last 3 years, we have seen a decade's worth of subway murders compressed into 3 years, less than 3 years, really, because 2022 isn't over yet. That's a massive change. And it's a change that really matters for the future health of the city, right? If people don't take public transportation out of fear, which is a completely reasonable thing to do. Our family got a car recently when my wife took a job in the Bronx, because I just didn't want her taking the subway, at 6 o'clock in the morning by herself and at 6 o'clock at night by herself. I suspect lots of people who can afford to and who are fortunate enough to be in that position are making similar decisions, if not deciding to leave the city altogether on that basis. And that's really, really not good for the future of New York, which depends on a tax base of people that really valued having a 24/7 public transportation system that was safe. I mean, I remember being, young and in college and, in my young professional life, taking the subway home from a bar at 2:30 in the morning, not thinking twice about, closing my eyes and taking a nap. Now, when I take the subway, I don't even, turn my headphones on. I do feel tense and sometimes afraid. I mean, for the first time in my life, actually, in 2020, I changed cars out of fear of someone who was in the car. I'd never done that. I'd been riding the subway by myself since I'm 9 years old. And I had never done that until I was in my mid-30s.
I've done that a million times. I've done it a million times. But that's especially because I was on the subway a lot in my young 20s. And I'm telling you, like young women in their 20s are the ones who get attacked.
That's right.
I mean, so it's like, when you're a young woman in your 20s, you're at like peak possible victimization. I've moved subway trains more times than I can count. But now everybody's in that same boat.
That's right. And what's interesting about that is that, there is a mental health problem aspect to this, right? I do think that, we see an overrepresentation of people suffering from mental illness among subway attackers. But what's interesting to me about that is that they're not quite so mentally ill as to attack a, fit, muscular 25-year-old guy in the prime of his life. They tend to pick on weaker targets who aren't paying attention, who are unsuspecting. It's just one of the reasons that more has to be done to get the subways under control. Because again, if people leave that system abruptly, and they already have, right? Again, on our best day, we're at about 70% of pre-pandemic ridership. That system, which is already financially taxed, is going to suffer and be degraded further. And that, I think, spells real trouble for the future health of New York as a city.
How has policy led to this? How I'm very curious, from the homelessness that we see everywhere, why are people naked everywhere now? I mean, like a video a day comes out of somebody naked committing a crime, misbehaving with police, down in the subway all the time, not to mention human excrement everywhere. It's disgusting. So why? What policies, let's just take New York because we're on the subject of it, are leading to this?
I think the deinstitutionalization that took place throughout the 70s and early 80s has a lot to do with it. And we have sort of built our mental health system in a way that has moved further and further away from models that prioritize real supervision so that people can actually be forced into compliance with, taking medication so that they can be healthy. This idea that people who are suffering from acute mental illness can just be trusted to go out into the world and take care of themselves is incredibly misguided. And I think is that the misguided nature of that idea is being illustrated for everyone to see. I mean, when I see someone, who is, naked, on the floor of the subway, talking to himself, I don't see compassion, right? There's nothing compassionate about that. Again, there were lots of problems with our mental health institutions, which is one of the reasons why there was such a backlash against them. But as is the case with our broader criminal justice policy, the response to a perceived problem cannot be throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because oftentimes the unintended consequences of that kind of policy are worse. And I think we're seeing exactly that. I mean, these are unstable individuals who need to be protected from themselves and who other people need to be protected from as well. We're not doing them any favors by allowing them to roam the subways or to roam the streets, to live unhealthily, to not take medications, to suffer, from the psychosis that they're suffering from, and that they're often exacerbating by, taking drugs as well, which is another big part of this.
Have you ever had a friend who's naturally talented at things? They just pick up a sport or a hobby or a thing, and they immediately become good at it. They make it look easy. Well, if you don't have that friend, it's you, and we're all secretly jealous of you. The good news is, no matter who you are, you can make great food look easy with Good Ranchers. They source the highest quality meat in America, and they can prove it. Each piece of meat is from real American farms and hand-cut and trimmed by real American workers. They only source from farms that meet their high standards of excellence, which means no antibiotics ever and no added hormones. Good Ranchers is so confident in the quality they sell that they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee on every box they ship to you. Plus, you can use my code Megyn to get 3 free shipping and $30 off on your first order. This is America's best meat and seafood sold by some of America's best people. They've won awards like Best Food Subscription, but their mission is still the same, bringing everyone to the table to share in the best of what makes life good. If you want the best, go with Good Ranchers. Visit goodranchers.com/Megyn, Megyn, to save on American meat delivered right to your door. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.